everyone. My name is Henna Hovi. I am the project manager of the EU CiViTAS Handshake project. And together with me, we have Oskari Kaupinmäki, our cycling coordinator, and our Copenhagen team leader, Henrik Lundorf Christensen. And to show you what we're all about in this developing cycling conditions and also as well as the Handshake project here in Helsinki is that the bicycle is a tool to achieve the sustainable growth of the city of Helsinki. This is a picture of our city plan, our general plan, which aims to develop Helsinki towards a rail network city, where the bicycle is also a tool to expand the radius of people using the rail network and moving sustainably and space efficiently and integrate our land use and mobility together with the rail. And as I said, it is about moving people. It's not about moving vehicles. It's about people going from A to B in their everyday lives, but also meanwhile enjoying to do so and enjoying the city and the urban life while they are moving. And now more about this topic on how we develop our cycling conditions. Oskari Kaupinmäki, our cycling coordinator, will tell you more about that.
Thank you very much, Henna. You know, I keep having to pinch myself because that's a good way to tell whether you're dreaming or not, because all of this feels really surreal. Actually being here in front of a live audience, interacting in a live space instead of Teams or Zoom or other online platforms that we've all become more than familiar with during the last year and a half. So it's just really great being here. I know I sound like a broken record. Everyone has expressed the same thing, but I just can't help myself. Before I dwell into a kind of a timeline story of the state of affairs in Helsinki, I really feel a need to give a shout out to Henna, because she's worked a lot and a lot of hard work and done an amazing job in making this happen. So can you all give her a round of applause? When I started working at the city of Helsinki, I first was the project manager of Handshake, and I started planning this summit 2 years ago in the summer. I mean, we were supposed to have this a year ago, but then things happened and it got delayed. I became the cycling coordinator and Henna took on the job, and she's done amazingly. This has turned out really well. Now, on to the topic at hand. So yes, as she said, I'm the cycling coordinator at the city of Helsinki. I've been working as such for a year and a half now. Before that, as I mentioned, I was the project manager of Handshake, and before that, I worked as a consultant in the transportation field in many cities throughout Finland. And during that journey of doing actually a lot of planning for cars, I went to Copenhagen once, and that experience that I had in Copenhagen could be compared to a child having ridden the swings for a long time and then going into Disneyland. That's when I realized this is how to integrate cycling into the city. I mean, we have talked about promoting cycling in Finland for a long time. I thought, well, we have bicycle infrastructure everywhere. I really don't know how we could do it any better. Copenhagen opened my eyes. I'm sorry, Copenhagen got to it first, but I've been to Amsterdam since then and in other places in the Netherlands too, so we look at them both. So we talk a lot about promoting cycling in Helsinki. And one thing we like to emphasize among many is that it's not a new thing. This is a picture of one of our main thoroughfares, Mäkelinen Katu. In the 1930s, you see people dressed for the destination riding their bicycle as a means of transport rather than a leisure activity. But Finland, wanting to be a modern country like most Western countries, looked at the big stages of modernism and how to develop into a modern city. So like many Western cities, we looked towards North America. We saw the car as a future mode of transportation, and we thought that's what we need to do here. And that's exactly what we started doing. So the car was seen as the mode of getting from point A to point B, a sense of freedom, and basically street space was being more and more allocated to the car instead of people walking, people on bicycles. And basically what that led to, we can talk about a sweeping sensation. So bicycle was a mode of transportation, but when the car became the center of attention in transport planning, all available space was given to cars. But of course, bicycling and walking never disappeared completely, but they were sort of squeezed to the side. And we can literally say that this kind of a sweeping motion happened when they were given this own tiny space on the side. This was based on on a model that we adapted from Sweden. We always have this kind of a little brother, little sister feeling towards Sweden, where they're always a few years ahead of us. And we saw that they had come up with a solution to protect people walking and people cycling, and they called it the SCAFT model. And that meant that walking and cycling should never mix, and it really had to do with cycling. Cycling should never mix with car traffic, and especially the Dutch. This might sound really weird, but that's what we started doing. So basically the principle was that we should never mix them. It should always be separated, and that led to the bicycle turning more from a mode of transportation more into a leisure time activity, or something that's a real minor part of the transport system. And what does it look like in practice? There's a lot of talk about in Finland about the people on bikes, the cyclists riding on sidewalks. Those damn cyclists don't know the rules. Well, we built infrastructure like this for them. We have a really minor residential street here where we have no more than a meter wide sidewalk has been marked as a combined path for walking and cycling. And that has been the general solution for cycling in Finland since the 70s, a combined path for walking and cycling. And we even see that today. That's the thing that kind of, when we talk about us being in a state of transformation, that's what it is. We're really taking the bicycling out from the world of walkers and treating that as its own mode of transportation. So even today, we see infrastructure like this on wide streets in inner city Helsinki, where there'd be more than enough room to give the people on bikes their own space. But we use this old best practice SCAFT principle from Sweden, thank you very much, where we just combine walking and cycling, and it kind of becomes this sweep the side kind of thing. Of course, we realized in the dense urban environments quite a while ago that actually mixing walking and cycling where we have high volumes of walking and cycling is not a good idea. So actually since the 80s, even earlier than that, some separation started occurring. This is best practice from before our current standards, where cycling and walking have been separated by a white line, but it by no means could be considered best practice. You can pay attention to where the signal posts have been put, etc. And considering it's not a real rush of people on bikes or walking, it's still pretty much a traffic jam sort of situation, because the current infrastructure does not cater for even the current volumes of people walking or biking. So hence, we're doing a little repetition, because as Finns like to think that repeat, and that's how people learn. We have a high level objective. So we do want to increase the cycling model share to 20%. We know that it's an ambitious goal, but we know that if you compare it to Amsterdam or Copenhagen, it's not really even that high. It's really achievable, and the potential definitely for that exists. So we have a target network, and now would be a perfect time to reflect on some things that we've heard here. I really am not a fan of comparing or competing Amsterdam and Copenhagen with each other either. Same reasons as for you guys, but different. For one thing, many Finns will look at Amsterdam and say, oh, that's a fairy tale. We can't do that. Then we'll look at Copenhagen and say, we could actually do that. But then they'll have someone saying, yeah, but Copenhagen's actually it's not good. It sucks for cyclists. And then they'll be kind of bewildered, thinking, well, what should we do then? So yes, working together, getting the best practices from all, and sharing experiences is what we're all about. And hence, we have a target network that's based on cohesion, based on connectivity, based on comfort, safety, and attractiveness. I think I pretty much covered the 5 basic principles from the Pro Manual. So we have a goal of integrating the bicycle back into the urban fabric instead of segregating it from car traffic and combining it with pedestrians. But the reason why the model share, for example, has not gone up is that we have, just in the inner city, a target network of 130 kilometers of bicycle infrastructure. Currently, we've built about 35 kilometers. So it's a pretty much Swiss cheese kind of network, and I loved hearing Hendrik's first experiences in Helsinki saying how great it is. Us being, I was not expecting such an excitement from someone from Copenhagen saying how awesome it is, but thank you. But this is the realism we live with, and the challenge we have is that a network like this is not really attractive, it's not really coherent, it's not really continuous. But, like I said, bicycle infrastructure is not new to Finland. We do have a lot of the SCAFT, the old-fashioned bicycle infrastructure, connecting all this best practice infrastructure, but it's not coherent. But it's connected, so something is there, but it does not cater for growth. So we need to have all these you see in lighter blue renewed according to best practice principles, and not just that. We have missing links. We even have really busy thoroughfares with no bicycle infrastructure whatsoever. So by law, people on bikes should use the really, really congested bus lanes. Not very attractive, not very safe. And this image here might look like a fairy tale, but it's not. This is our goal. We are committed to making this happen, and that's why we're in a bit of a rush, because that's a lot of work. We need to get it done, and it's not good, even looking at the climate issues we have, it's not good if it takes us more than 20 years. We have a very ambitious goal of making this happen almost completely by 2031. So it's a bit of a challenge, but we like challenges. And the thing is that this is probably preaching to the choir when we're talking to Danes and the Dutch, but it's like we said, we're not looking at the bicycle or I haven't said this yet. We're not prioritizing the bicycle above all other modes of transportation. We're doing exactly what we heard from Klaus, for example, that we need to have it considered an equal mode of transportation amongst all other modes. And we are still, of course, designing for cars, but when we're looking at densely built city environments, we are bringing pedestrians, public transit, and cyclists as the most prioritized modes of transportation. And we're doing this by integrating cycling into the urban fabric, not separately putting it on a pedestal. So basically what that means is building bicycle infrastructure where it's needed, where we have really busy streets with high volumes and high speeds, and then only separating it where it's necessary or where we have bicycle highways, which according to best practices should run separately. And we're already getting there. So we do have best practices already in the inner city, and we do know that it's winter, and even though it's winter here, winter cycling already exists, and that's one of the challenges we're going to tackle, is to increase the year-round model share of cycling. That is my time here. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to hand the floor back to Henna.
Thank you, Oskari. Yeah, that was a really compact and full information overview on what we do, and now a little bit about how we use the Handshake project in order to boost this development. So in a nutshell, what the Handshake project is about taking best practices from Copenhagen and Amsterdam, who are as well in this project, and take them the best practices of cycling planning here to Helsinki, and not just cycling planning, but urban planning in general. And as I said, it is about the city development holistically, and using the bicycle as the tool for the urban growth in Helsinki. And then the third point is that it is a constant knowledge exchange between the cities. It doesn't really matter whether it's a small problem or a big problem, but we can always ask that, hey, Henrik, hi, Pascal, like, how would you solve this intersection here? Or what kind of structural layers do you use in your very detailed questions that we would use hours of digging without this project, and it has been very fruitful in doing so. And the mentoring process in this is crucial, so we learn to be better planners through this project from who do it the best, who are the leading cycling capitals. And as an example of this, we've also held a lot of workshops, and then we have a constant online knowledge exchange platform that we use to share knowledge with each other. And then part of this project is this transition management work phase, which is why we are also here today. So the Helsinki Summit also attaches to a continuum of transition management working, where we have gathered up a transition management team, which representatives here are as well today, both from our planners, NGOs, and other important stakeholders. And we have formed a vision of tying the bicycle into the longer-term strategy of City of Helsinki, of taking it into account the vibrancy, equality, Helsinki of city life and culture, and all year-round vibrant city in Helsinki. And then we have formed these steps toward this vision where we kind of identified these different usual characters in what we kind of encounter here in the city of Helsinki when doing cycling planning. And then also these pitches that we can use to convince them, which I'm more than happy of sharing with you guys. And then also related to the Handshake project, we will also be doing some street pilots in order to make these plans into reality and use what we've learned here in the summit as well as in the transition management work phase to learn how to make things better. Then there are a lot of immersive experiences where we do study tours in normal times outside of the COVID pandemic, and here as well in our immersive event, the Helsinki Summit. Then we have done also some assessment and evaluation methods. We did a Bikenomics calculation from Hämeentie. This was a pilot as well to test how could we do cost-benefit analysis on cycling here in Helsinki. And the results was that 1 invested euro to Hämeentie produced advantages of 3.6 euros. So it was quite a good investment, and this calculation took into account all of the different costs that went into the construction, and then the benefits that we would then gain from the increased amounts of cycling through this project. Then, as I said, in Helsinki, as Oskar already touched, what we also try to do in this project, that we try to get rid of the kind of leisure activity of cycling that here in Helsinki, unfortunately, it has been kind of like that only the fit, healthy, young man, and in Finland in general, it's just that the image of cycling for many people in Finland is sadly this, whereas it should be this. People riding with their families and just taking it into account in their everyday lives. And what I kind of was referring to make it into reality is this is an example of Voorstraat, Utrecht. I'm pronouncing it probably terribly wrong, sorry for that. And there's a before and after picture just to remind you that these cities that are part of Handshake, which are the leading cycling capitals, have also gone through these same stages that we are facing these challenges here today and have made these changes. And this is an example of a bicycle street solution. And then I will hand it over to Henrik, our team leader from Copenhagen, to tell you about his remarks on how he sees as the team leader our project here. So thank you, guys.
Well, thank you very much. So nice to see so many people, and also hello to everybody who's behind their screens. I share the feeling that Oskar and Henna has expressed that being here, it's really magical. These are to be considered like my colleagues. We've had a lot of virtual meetings, so it's so nice to meet in person. My name is Henrik Lundorf, and I'm the project manager of Handshake in Copenhagen. And other people has mentioned their background, so I can tell that my background working with cycling was actually moving to Argentina and living it in my own body, the feeling of not being able to move safely on a bicycle as I was used to in Denmark. So I started working with cycling there, and been to many small cities where there's been no cycling infrastructure, and I was prepared for the worst here in Helsinki. So when I told Oskari I was really happy, it was like we're not starting from scratch. Other people has mentioned that like Helsinki is really advanced. There is, of course, we can talk about the details and the infrastructure, but there's like a basis. There's really skilled people. There's people who wants to ride their bikes, and the space has been allocated. Then we can always discuss how should the surface be, but those are details. I was asked by Henna to bring a photo of a transition in Copenhagen, and I chose this one of Amagertorv. It's a big square in the center of Copenhagen, and as you can see, the difference in almost 60 years is remarkable. From a 5-lane highway going through the historic city of Copenhagen to making a public square. And then you actually don't see any cyclists here. But again, this has been mentioned by everybody, that the vision that we share about cycling, it's not just about going A to B, it's about creating public space and spaces where you can be. And the conditions to have this space where people can walk around, it is that 50% more or less of people, they go to the city center on a bicycle instead of driving their cars, because if they came on their cars, there wouldn't be any room to hang around. Just a few views on Handshake from our perspective from Copenhagen. It's great to have this professional network of peers. Just as Hanna and Oskar said, like it's a network where we can meet and we can give feedback. And we use this hamburger model of feedback in Denmark. So the bun typically is saying something positive. Then you get to the patty. That's like the consistent part. That's a little bit more critical. We're only in the beginning of the summit, so we'll get to the patty later. And then you end up with something positive and then looking forward. So that's like this relationship that we've built up for a long time, like having an honest conversation where you encourage, but you're also critical and raising the bar. It's really privileged for us that we have these positions and we have the time and space that we can go really into the nitty-gritty details. And I mean, sitting, looking at a map, saying, what if you turn here and what should the angle be? Like, it can be really nerdy, and it can be these ad hoc questions popping up, just like when Hanna sent me a question about the bearing of a bike lane, like what weight should it be able to take? It's really technical, and I tried to illustrate it here with this figure out to the right of the screen, that you have all these different questions or ideas in the Helsinki city organization, but they're all getting to Hanna, and then you have me on the other side receiving that and spreading it out into the Copenhagen. So you have a lot of institutional knowledge that maybe if one engineer in Helsinki, he would have to find it by himself. He would have to look through many books and manuals. And I think it's a good example of what Mr. Litjen said about the knowledge. Like, it can't just be a book on the shelf. Like, you have to make it work. And I think that's the value of Handshake. Like, we make these things, the knowledge of our organizations, work. But it's also a continuous process. It's not just a one-to-one Q&A, like here's a question, here's the answer. Like, we actually don't know where this is going to end up. And little by little, there's different topics popping up. Sometimes we spend more time talking about behavior. Sometimes it's more about infrastructure. But that's the cool thing about Handshake. Like, we don't know where we're getting to. And the point about the one-stop shop, like, we have the combination. But my final point, I think, is also what's in it for us, because it's like a resource and development space to have Handshake and to open our eyes as a cycling capital in Copenhagen. We get to see what's coming behind us, and when I see at the street Hämeentie, and I think of Helsinki full of streets like that, like I'm getting a little bit worried. So it's also like having a little bit of a fire, saying we shouldn't get complacent and just, well, we're Copenhagen, we're forever going to be a world reference. So it's really nice to see the up-and-coming future cycling capitals, which is actually the title that Helsinki has in the Handshake project, a future cycling capital, and I think it's getting there. So we really appreciate this cooperation, and I want to share it with the Helsinki organization, like, we are there another year, so whatever question or thing you need from us, we'll still be there on the other side in Copenhagen, so please take advantage of us. We're really happy to share, and I think we also find out that when we have to explain why is this thing this way in Copenhagen, we're forced to have better explanations than just this is what we've been doing for decades. Like it's a good way of us of learning why are we actually doing this, and sometimes we find out that our responses are not really well established. So having this mentor-mentee relationship with Helsinki actually helps us to know better where do we come from, where are we going, and should we rethink what we're doing. So thanks for coming, and thanks for listening to this. And I guess, do you have any closing remarks, Hanna?
Well, just a big thank you to all of you guys already. So yes, it's an absolute delight to have you guys here. And already, I think I've already learned so much from the talks that you gave, and I'm looking forward to discussing more with you guys.